This is Natural Powerlifting Radio. Deadlifts, chicken nuggets, video games. This is Check My Total, a powerlifting podcast with Timothy Payne and Andrew Hinson.
It's another episode of the Check My Total podcast with me and T-Payne sitting at the helm of the captainship for this episode. What are we talking about?
Today we're going to try to talk about some sports psychology. What's going through a powerlifter's mind before they try to do a max attempt, or, if you're about to hit some heavy fives or heavy threes or whatever you're about to do. Just what's going through your mind while you're trying to work out.
Alright, so we're talking about powerlifting psychology.
Yes.
Alright. About the mind. Well, I will say I know quite a few people that their mind gets the better of them.
Oh, yeah.
So I think...
Well, let's break this down. Let's start with training. Like, how do you prepare yourself just to go into a day of regular training?
If it's a day of regular training, really, most of the time, not a whole lot of mental preparation as far as a normal day if I'm just doing volume training. If anything, it's mainly preparing for the sets of the main lifts, like maybe the last set of the squat or something, if I'm feeling worn out. It's more of just kind of, for a normal day of training, it's more of just showing up and doing the work. There's not a whole lot of mental preparedness as far as that goes, since I've done it for so long.
Now, does it change if you're working out in the morning versus working out in the evening? Like having to give yourself certain pep talks?
No, not for me. I don't really change if it's morning or evening. It's more of just getting in and getting the work done. There's not a whole lot of mental preparation. If the weight's very doable, 80-ish%, 75, 80%. I'm not doing a ton of mental prep. When we start getting to like very heavy sets of 5 or just really heavy sets in general, then the mental prep and training kind of gets a little bit more serious.
Yeah, man. And I think it also depends on what you're doing for that day. Like, squats have always been the thing that messed with me the most. And I guess that's just because, I don't know, the bars are on your back and can crush you kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
Where with the deadlift, you can just drop it. Or the bench press, you can just kind of rest it on your chest. With the squat, there's really like nothing you can do to get out of it without dumping it. And even that's kind of dangerous to some degree.
Yeah, that's true. The squat, the weight is on your back. You kind of got to get a little bit more prepared for that.
Yeah. And like what you hit on, though, I think your experience and how much time you've spent lifting does have a lot to do with how mentally prepared you are and what kind of cues and things that you say to yourself before you get under some weight.
Yeah. The more experienced you are, generally you shouldn't be having to, really dig down deep to just do a workout.
Right.
It should just come naturally. You shouldn't need a lot of motivation. You should just be able to get in there and get it done and leave. But if you're kind of prepping for a meet, or you're just prepping to test your maxes, or you got a 5-rep max coming up, or whatever it is, that's a little different. You kind of got to prep differently and approach that training session differently. What I like to do is, if there is a heavy training session coming up, and the weights are a little nerve-wracking, you're confident you can hit it, but you're not super confident to where you can just breeze through it.
Right.
Then it kind of comes down to one, just believing in your training and knowing what you're doing is right. If you start doubting your whole training program, then it's kind of just all downhill after that if you don't think you've made any progress. So like a negative outlook is going to have negative results on your training.
Yeah,
You know.
I agree with that.
So if you have a positive outlook and you believe in what you've been doing, then I don't think you should be pretty confident going in, and that confidence will help you during that heavy set. Um, Now, if you can think positive about your training and believe that you've gotten stronger, the next thing is to actually visualize yourself with that weight and to kind of feel the weight. I know it's good. It's good when you have a competition coming up. If you know your openers and in your second and third attempts, it's good to visualize yourself doing that. Um, and what I mean by that is, kind of visualize the whole entire process of you walking up to the bar, grabbing the bar, and if it's a squat, putting it on your back, walking it out, waiting for the judge command, squat down, squat back up, rack it, and all that stuff. Um, that's good to visualize, and that's good to do it for all three of the lifts. And that's kind of what I do if I have a heavy set of 5 coming up. Just visualize, know it's going to be heavy, and kind of do a lot of visualization training, like image training or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, because while you're sitting there waiting on your set, or wrapping your knees or doing whatever, like I'll stare at the squat rack, and it's almost like an out of body thing where you can see yourself, in third person, almost like a ghost or something, actually doing the sets and doing the reps.
Yep, and I think it's good to actually. I've done this quite a few times. Is to practice visualizing in third person and in first person.
Yeah.
And I really do think that it's a good idea if you know you're maxing out soon. It's a good idea to actually start visualizing the number you want to hit about 2 weeks out from that hard training session. You'd be surprised how strong the mind is, and if you actually just visualize yourself multiple times a day, third and first person, um, it'll really help. And you can even go through the motions. You can actually visualize yourself while you know, just squatting or benching and deadlifting, with no weight at all, just yourself. Kind of get the feel for it.
Yeah. Uh, I agree with that all the way. Like, I don't know how many times, or it's just been a long time since I've actually done a competition, but how many times I'll go through a certain lift in my mind, and like we just said, you're actually seeing yourself on the platform with all the judges and the atmosphere and everything. I think the more times you can see yourself doing something is the better that you believe that you can do something. Because if you can't see yourself doing it to begin with, the chances are you probably won't achieve what you're trying to do.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of fighters do it. A lot of fighters do what's called image training, and like they'll visualize themselves fighting someone and someone is punching or kicking them from a certain angle or whatever. So like I mean it's a pretty common thing, and there's some success in it.
And I find myself pretty much doing it with everything in my life. Like, I'll lay in bed 5 minutes, like picturing myself getting up and going to my computer and working before I actually do it. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I do it for just about anything.
Yeah, it's if you can and a key thing is to not you visualize yourself doing it, but also visualize, the amount of weight on the bar, the plates on the bar, visualize kind of kind of somehow simulate the strain on your body, like know it's going to be really heavy and know that it's not going to fly up, that you might have to grind it out. That those smaller details can really help. Um, you kind of have to get into it. You got to get into a mental state of mind. You kind of got to meditate on your lifts and your training.
Yeah, and I like what you said, and there's probably different ways that you can go about this in your head, but I think being realistic is the best way to go about something. Like, understand before you do something that it's not going to be easy. because it takes the shock out of it, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you get under the bar and everybody's telling you, lightweight, you got this, it's easy, go do it. And then, you get under the bar, and about as soon as you take it out of the rack, you're like, oh crap, what is this?
Yep.
I
It's
think,
heavy.
yep, I think knowing, or just being, realistic and logical that, hey, I might have to, exactly what you said, grind this out. I think that's a good way to go into a lift, knowing that, yeah, this might not be easy.
Oh yeah. I mean, you gotta go into it knowing that your face is gonna be red and your veins gonna be popping and your ears gonna be ringing, type of thing. Like it does do no good visualizing an easy lift.
And powerlifting ain't a sport where you're going to look pretty all the time.
Yeah.
Which I try to look pretty all the time, like technique and form and stuff, which is probably what's held me back doing a lot of things, trying to make everything as perfect as can be. But yeah, so before you walk onto the platform, other than the visualization, what's going through your head as you're on deck, like chalking up?
I mean, really, I've visualized myself doing it so many times where when I hit the platform, there's really almost nothing going through my mind except for just lift the weight.
Do you have any certain kind of checklist in your brain that you go through?
I mean, I have my normal quirks, like, I think I put both hands on the bar at the same time and try and make them even, and like then I get underneath the bar, kind of shimmy my way into position, and little quirks like that. But as far as mental, I mean, I'm not like for me, I've done it. I've squatted, benched, and deadlifted so many times. When I actually get up there, the only thing I'm thinking of is lifting it. My form just kind of happens, and I don't really think too hard of the actual technical aspect of it.
Okay. Because I guess I'm kind of more like a creature of habit. I'll get under the bar and I'll say the cues in my head like what we teach people when we train people. For a squat, for instance, big air 1-2 is what I've been hearing all my life. So you get your air and your two steps coming out of the rack.
Yeah,
Big air 1-2, chest up, and then you go. So I'm kind of going through all of that in my head as I'm waiting to get out there. Like I said, then it goes into all your visualization, everything else. Um, like you were saying about your quirks, though, like putting your hands on the bar and getting under it. Are there any other kind of like superstitious things that you do? Like, do you have to wrap your knees first and then put chalk on your hands and then put your belt on, or does that really matter?
I mean, I have to wrap my knees, then tighten my belt, and then put chalk on. But that's just cause I don't want the chalk being put on my hands first, cause then I'm just gonna get it all over my knee wraps, and then it's not gonna be on my hands.
Right,
So I don't know if that's not I don't know if that's a quirk, but that's
right.
just the order I do things in, just
But
because of just because.
do you have to wrap your knee like a certain knee first, like your right or your left one first, or anything like that?
Uh, no, actually, I'm pretty sure that I just kind of pick one and go with it. I don't really wrap one first,
Okay,
which most people probably do start with one knee all the time.
I feel you.
But yeah, I don't think there's really because the visualization happens like 2 weeks prior or every day leading up to the competition. So it's more for me just get up there and perform and do it.
I know you've said this a million times, but you know, the visualization, you've already done the squat or whatever lift you're trying to perform 50, 100, 200 times in your brain. So where you're right, you can kind of just relax and take out things that a novice person would maybe think about and just go out there and perform.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a novice, maybe you are running through your checks in your head, and you're making sure everything feels right. But when you get to a certain point where it's like you can either do the lift or you can't. Like you either know the form or you don't. You know how you lift or you don't. And it takes a while to get there, but eventually you get there and kind of it's like autopilot.
Now, will certain warm-up situations throw you off your game or anything?
Mm, yeah, I mean, if for some reason I'm not able to take the usual increments that I normally do, then yeah, that'll throw me off. Like, if I'm used to warming up empty bar, 25 plate, 25 plate, plate, and stuff like that, then for some reason I have to jump a big jump, or like I don't start off with an empty bar, or something like that. Yep, that can throw me off. So I would try and you know replicate your warm up to as close as you possibly can before you do a heavy set or a one rep max or anything like that.
So, I guess the big takeaway that we're trying to say is just become comfortable with what you're doing. Because
Yeah,
I think the more comfortable you are, the more you can let your mind relax instead of being in uh, a state of constant panic or stress because you don't know what's happening, you don't know what's going on.
yeah. I mean, you have to be comfortable and you have to be visualizing yourself doing it. And the mind's a powerful thing. And if you got a positive outlook on your training and you know how that heavy weight's going to feel, then you're going to be better prepared for it. And it won't be your first time doing the lift. It'll be your 100th time doing the lift. So it might just be the first time you've actually done the lift in real life.
Right.
So I mean that's kind of it. The mind's a powerful thing, and you shouldn't underestimate it. And I think if your confidence is shaky and you're not confident in your program, then you're probably not gonna lift any new max. Probably you're just not gonna be mentally prepared for it.
I agree. So, I guess another thing we're trying to say is the way that we approach it is to be more relaxed and confident instead of, because a lot of these people will go into a dark place and get crazy and yell and scream, and you know that's one approach you can take.
Yeah, I mean you can take the dark alleyway if you want. You can get all pumped and snort the ammonia, and you can play your heavy metal song in your ear if you
Slap
really
yourself around.
yeah if you really need it. And some people really do need that, and that's fine. If that's how you visualize and that's how you get mentally prepared, then go for it. But no, that ain't me. That'll throw me off.
I do think there are advantages to both. Like with the kind of crazy getting jacked up, I guess you can, I guess you get a release of adrenaline going, which probably helps you if
Yeah,
you time it right. I mean, you can definitely have an adrenaline dump,
yeah. I mean, if you
which
time it
isn't
right,
good.
you can get something out of it. The only time, like, I would say that kind of stuff for like the actual platform.
Right.
I don't really see the point in doing all that in training. I mean, I think it's fine if you have a competition to go all out and to go the extra mile and get extra pumped. But during training, 5 rep maxes, even if you're testing a new 1 rep max in the gym, I just don't think that's very necessary.
Me neither. And I like to treat competitions as the place where you want all the uh tricks that you can use, if that makes sense. You want the meat day to be the easy day. You
Yep.
don't want your meat day to be hard. So what I'm trying to say is make your training as hard as you can. So if you have to get pumped up every single training session to do something, then it will grow old for one thing. So if you just wait to do it at the competitions, that's just another extra edge that you have that you pull out of your tool bag that you don't use every day. And you can do other different training techniques and things too, like using thicker bars when you deadlift while you train, and then when you show up to the meet, you're using a bar that's smaller to you. Just
Hmm.
little things like that can help your mental game too. Knowing that when you show up to the meet, it'll be your easy day, not your. It's not something that you dread because you've been training, making yourself do the hardest things that you can.
Yeah. Yeah, your meet day should be the easier day as far as, the elements that are there. Like your bar should be skinnier if you're always using a fatter bar. Um, things like that. So yeah, your training, you should definitely focus on making your training hard, so that way you're mentally prepared for the meet day.
Yeah. And the same with music too. Like I like saving music mostly for the meets. I just like using everything on meet day that I can
Yeah,
instead of trying to use it every day in the gym because then it loses its power, its effect on you.
yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. But man, that's all I can think of on this subject. You got anything else?
I think that about wraps it up. So, ladies and gentlemen, crack open that ammonia on the meat day. Don't leave it out sitting in the gym for your best friend to smell. And next thing you know, especially don't leave it out with the kids there. Kids will put that ammonia anywhere. So they'll put it up their nose and up their butt. You just never know. So don't snort ammonia during your training, and save it for the meat day. Mentally visualize yourself. Meditate. Meditate. Visualize yourself almost pooping yourself lifting. And your face is red and your veins are out. Visualize yourself so you don't wreck yourself. That's all I got.
We out.
Don't forget the IBP Morganton Push-Pull in Morganton, North Carolina on November 10th. For more information about the competition, please visit ironboypowerlifting.com. Please subscribe and thank you for listening. Be sure to follow @CheckMyTotal on Instagram for all the latest updates.